Hey there! Welcome back to Color and Craft Haven, a little corner of calm where we can slow down, breathe, and add a little color to the day. Today we're taking a look at something many of us enjoy without necessarily thinking about how it got here: the adult coloring book. Walk into almost any bookstore, craft store, gift shop, or online marketplace today and you'll find shelves filled with intricate mandalas, fantasy scenes, animals, flowers, landscapes, Gothic illustrations, cozy cottages, and just about every theme imaginable. Adult coloring has become such a normal hobby that it's easy to forget there was a time when the phrase adult coloring book would have sounded strange. For most of modern history, coloring books were considered something exclusively for children. Yet somehow, a pastime associated with crayons in elementary school classrooms evolved into a hobby enjoyed by millions of adults around the world. If you've been coloring for years, you might remember the explosion of adult coloring books around the mid-2010s. And it seemed to happen almost overnight. Suddenly, bookstores had entire sections dedicated to coloring books for grown-ups. Social media feeds filled with completed pages. People shared color palettes, marker collections, and techniques. New artists appeared constantly. Publishers rushed to release new titles. What looked like an overnight success, however, was actually the result of a much longer journey that stretches back much further than many people realize. The earliest coloring books appeared in the late 19th century. One of the first commercially successful examples was published in the United States during the 1880s. These books were designed primarily as educational tools. The idea was that children could learn while coloring illustrations. They often contained images of plants, animals, historical figures, or scenes intended to teach lessons. Coloring wasn't viewed purely as entertainment. Instead, it was seen as a way to encourage observation, motor skills, and learning. The basic concept was simple: provide line art and let the user add color. That simple idea would remain largely unchanged for more than a century. As printing technology improved during the 20th century, coloring books became increasingly common. They were inexpensive to produce, easy to distribute, and highly popular with families. Children's coloring books became tied to cartoons, movies, television shows, and educational programs. By the mid-20th century, coloring books were firmly established as a children's activity. Adults generally viewed them as something children would eventually outgrow. Creative expression for adults was expected to come through drawing, painting, or other artistic pursuits. Coloring inside pre-drawn lines wasn't usually considered a serious hobby for grown-ups. Interestingly, adults never completely abandoned coloring. Throughout the decades, there were occasional coloring books marketed towards older audiences. Some focused on humor, political satire, or novelty themes. Others were aimed at artists who enjoyed detailed illustrations. These books existed, but they remained niche products. They rarely reached mainstream popularity. Most people still associated coloring books with childhood. If someone had predicted in the 1990s that coloring books would become a major adult hobby, many people probably would have laughed at the idea. Part of what changed was society's growing conversation around stress. Modern life became increasingly fast-paced. Many people found themselves constantly connected through phones, computers, social media, and endless streams of information. The pressure to stay productive, informed, and available at all times created a sense of mental overload. As conversations about wellness, mindfulness, and self-care grew more common, people began searching for simple activities that could help them slow down and focus. Not everyone wanted to meditate on a mountaintop. Some people just wanted a relaxing activity they could do at the kitchen table after work. That created an opening for adult coloring to emerge in a brand new way. Rather than being marketed as a children's activity, coloring began to be presented as a relaxing creative practice. Publishers recognized that adults often wanted something artistic without the pressure of creating original artwork from scratch. Not everyone feels comfortable drawing. Not everyone wants to learn perspective, anatomy, or advanced painting techniques. Coloring offered a middle ground. The artwork was already there. The creative choices remained. Color, shading, blending, and personal interpretation still allowed room for self-expression. One of the biggest turning points came when highly detailed coloring books started gaining widespread attention. Instead of simple cartoon illustrations, artists created intricate pages filled with patterns, decorative elements, fantasy worlds, gardens, animals, and elaborate scenes. These books differed dramatically from traditional children's coloring books. Many pages were so detailed they could take hours or even days to complete. The complexity itself became part of the appeal. People enjoyed becoming immersed in tiny details and slowly bringing illustrations to life. Around the mid-2010s, adult coloring exploded into mainstream popularity. Certain books became international bestsellers. Millions of copies were sold worldwide. News outlets covered the phenomenon. Television programs discussed it. Social media accelerated the trend as colorists shared finished pages, techniques, supplies, and recommendations. Entire online communities formed around coloring. Suddenly, people who had quietly enjoyed coloring at home discovered thousands of others who shared the same hobby. What had once been seen as a solitary activity became a vibrant community experience. Of course, the mindfulness connection played a huge role in this boom. Many people found that coloring encouraged a state of focused attention. When selecting colors, filling small spaces, and when working through detailed illustrations, it became easier to temporarily set aside worries and distractions. The activity demanded enough concentration to keep the mind occupied, but wasn't so difficult that it became frustrating. Many colorists described entering a state where time seemed to pass more quickly and everyday concerns faded into the background for a little while. Now, it's important to note that coloring is not a magical cure for stress, anxiety, or mental health challenges. Sometimes media coverage during the coloring boom made it sound as if coloring could solve every problem known to humanity. If headlines had their way, coloring books might have cured stress, taxes, traffic jams, and possibly the weather. Reality is a little bit more modest. Coloring can be relaxing and enjoyable, but it isn't a replacement for professional mental health care when such care is needed. What coloring can do is provide a pleasant, accessible activity that many people find calming and rewarding. Another reason adult coloring succeeded is that it requires relatively little equipment. Compared to many hobbies, the barrier to entry is quite low. A coloring book and a basic set of pencils are enough to begin. There are certainly enthusiasts who collect extensive supplies and specialty pencils and markers and gel pens, storage systems, and lighting setups. But unlike some creative hobbies, coloring doesn't demand a huge investment before someone can start enjoying it. This accessibility helped make the hobby appealing to a broader audience. The growth of social media further transformed coloring culture. Platforms dedicated to sharing images allowed people to showcase completed pages, to discuss techniques, and discover artists from around the world. Colorists could compare approaches to the same illustration and see how different color choices completely change the mood of a page. One person might create a realistic woodland scene, while another turned that same image into a vibrant fantasy landscape. This sharing aspect highlighted something important about coloring. Even when starting from the same line art, creativity still plays a major role. As the hobby matured, publishers began offering an enormous variety of themes. Fantasy enthusiasts could color dragons, castles, and magical forests. Nature lovers could choose flowers, birds, and wildlife. Cozy coloring books featuring bookstores, cafes, cottages, and seasonal scenes became increasingly popular. Some artists focused on whimsical illustrations, while others created highly realistic designs. This diversity allowed people to find books that matched their own personal interests and aesthetic preferences. Coloring was no longer one hobby, but a collection of many different creative experiences. The supplies evolved as well. Early colorists often relied primarily on crayons or basic pencils. Today, hobbyists can choose from countless options. Colored pencils remain extremely popular because of their control and blending capabilities. Alcohol markers offer smooth, bold coverage. Water-based markers provide vibrant colors with different handling characteristics. Gel pens add highlights and decorative effects. Metallic and glitter products bring extra visual interest. Entire conversations now exist around paper quality, layering techniques, color theory, and tool preferences. The hobby has developed a rich culture of learning and experimentation. One particularly interesting aspect of adult coloring is that it appeals to people with very different goals. Some individuals approach coloring as a mindfulness activity. Others enjoy it as a creative outlet. Some focus on technical skill development. Others simply enjoy collecting beautiful books and occasionally completing a page. There are people who spend weeks perfecting a single illustration, and people who happily color while watching a favorite television series. The hobby accommodates many different approaches without insisting that one method is superior to another. The pandemic years provided another significant chapter in the story of adult coloring. During periods when many people were spending more time at home, interest in relaxing creative hobbies increased. People searched for activities that could provide structure, enjoyment, and a sense of accomplishment. Coloring fit that need remarkably well. A completed page offered a tangible result in a time when many days felt repetitive and uncertain. For some people, finishing even a small illustration became a comforting reminder that progress was still possible. Today, adult coloring occupies an interesting place in the creative world. It sits somewhere between art, hobby, relaxation, practice, and personal expression. Critics occasionally argue that coloring isn't real art because the line work is already provided. Yet many colorists would point out that color choices, shading decisions, blending techniques, and stylistic interpretation all involve creative thinking. More importantly, hobbies don't need to pass some imaginary creativity test to be worthwhile. If an activity brings enjoyment, relaxation, learning, or community, it doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. Looking back, the evolution of adult coloring books reflects broader cultural changes. It mirrors growing interest in mindfulness, wellness, slow living, and accessible creativity. It shows how people continue searching for ways to disconnect from constant stimulation and reconnect with simple, hands-on activities. What began as a children's educational tool eventually became a beloved hobby for adults seeking relaxation, artistic expression, and a little bit of peace in a busy world. And perhaps that's one of the most fascinating parts of the story. Coloring itself never changed very much. We're still filling shapes with color just as people did generations ago. What changed was how society viewed the activity. Something once dismissed as childish became recognized as meaningful, enjoyable, and valuable for adults as well. That's a reminder that creativity doesn't always have to be complicated. Sometimes all it takes is a page, a few colors, a comfortable chair, and a little time set aside from the noise of everyday life. Whether you've been coloring for 10 years or 10 days, you're part of a hobby with a surprisingly rich history. The next time you sit down with your favorite coloring book, take a moment to appreciate the journey that brought it there. From educational children's activity to global mindfulness trend to cozy creative pastimes enjoyed by millions. It's quite a transformation for something that started with a simple outline waiting for a splash of color. That's it for today's Colorful Time. Let me know in the comments when you first discovered adult coloring books and whether you've been coloring for years or are just getting started. Take care, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next one.